will ultimately draw the form of the ritual which is performed in a subsequent volume, Lucifer Praxis. There will be time enough for revelation. But first, the hard graft of exegesis is required. Fortunately, there is a wealth of specialist scholarly work available, without which the task would be insurmountable. Lest this be considered a fool's coat made from the offcuts of others' cloth, I will add that this material has not been approached in this way before, and it is tailored for a specific practical purpose. So it begins. Isaiah is the named author of this crafted curse in what is a great litany of tumbling curses. But as with Solomon being ascribed authorship of the grimoires, this is a convenient fiction. The chronology of Isaiah spans from the Assyrian occupation to the post-exilic period, encompassing the Babylonian exile, and is delivered as if it were the words of a single prophetic author. There is, however, enough context to date the Lucifer verses. This, at least, seems likely to have been written not by the prophet Isaiah, but by Isaiah son of Amoz in the mid-8th century before the Common Era. These lines have been extracted from a highly political text, written in a time of war and disorder when Israel had been defeated and absorbed into the Assyrian Empire. The context is critical. Our author has a radically conservative agenda. His railing against paganism makes the text a repository of heretics. Yet the main thrust of the attack is aimed squarely at the Jewish people, who have turned away from Yahweh, and in critiquing them, simultaneously appeals to the special inner group of the Orthodox. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The rebellion takes a specific form, the opposing of divine order. By acceding to the conquering Assyrians and their vassals, to this failing is bound the immortal worship of supposedly foreign gods, heaped upon the sins of idolatry and sacrifice are attacks on women, such as the scandalous adorned beauty of the daughters of Zion, who are reviled for inciting God's anger. In this regard, it is not superfluous to quote Isaiah 3:16-24. The exquisite detail of the description creates a locket that contains on one face the hatred of the prophet, and on the other paradoxically preserves what would have been a lost vision of beauty. The text is forensic in detail and precise in its measuring out of retribution, characteristics that will enable us to get closer to Lucifer than we could have dared to hope when we came to consider his fate. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go and making a tinkling with their feet. And therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. And the Lord will discover their secret parts. And in the day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet and their calls and their round tires like the moon, and the chains and the bracelets and the mufflers and the bonnets and the ornaments of the legs and the headbands and the tablets and the earrings and the rings and the robe and the nose jewels and the changeable suits of apparel and the mantles and the wimples on the crisping things.
Greetings and salutations. Give me a yo if you can hear me all right. Welcome to an impromptu Friday the 13th live stream. It's May 2022. I'm broadcasting from the temple on the Sabbath. Thank you for that, Diane. I appreciate that. Good to see you out in Happy Land. Hope you are doing well.
And it is this susceptibility which furnishes into a willful embrace that becomes a key element of the medieval witch hunts. Adornment that is celebration and enhancement of female sexuality on its own terms is anathema. The demonization of carnality, often expressed as the worship of female divinities, erroneously glossed as foreign, emerges centuries later in the form of the witch hunting manuals. And one reason to study texts such as Isaiah is that the history of ideas is best understood as a churning ocean that dredges up treasures from the depths and deposits them wet and gleaming on the shore before it drags them under again. What is important about this passage is that it highlights how the fate of the transgressors is matched to their supported crimes, a technique of symmetrical inversion that Isaiah specializes in. An understanding of Lucifer is predicated upon recognizing his origins in this process. Morning Star, of course. Rebellion is the sign of an internal corruption which has led to the fall of the nation to a foreign enemy. In this case, Assyria. Elsewhere in Isaiah, the enemy is Babylon, as it is in Revelation and other apocalyptic works that do not cite Kittim or Egypt. This sense of an inner enemy weakening the state has been a constant political trope. The motif of a fifth column reemerging with the witch hunts in the early modern period. More recently, we find the argument used in Weimar Germany by the Nazi Party, expressed in disproved notions of race and blood. By McCarthy, whose agents fingered Jack Parsons, and currently by the security state, the search is ultimately for ideological heresy. It is essential to understand the idea of rebellion in its traditional sense, rather than the glamorized or romanticized sense it has come to hold in our culture. Blind imposition of values is one of the most common errors made in reading past.
Yo, what's up?
Rebellion is particular. It has come to be associated with a privileging particular pre-verbal emotional state, one that many are heavily involved in. We all too frequent identification with the emotional response to the idea of rebellion.
I'm trying to control the volume here. I don't want to make too much noise first thing in the morning.
We cannot begin to read the past without first acknowledging that these modern prejudices lead us to overwrite the past or to construct histories that flatter us. My aim is to be effective in sorcery rather than be ensorcelled. Rebellion has become a marketing device designed to exploit the developmental stage of sexual awakening and differentiation in modern teenagers who have no formal initiation ritual into adulthood. It is part of a deliberate strategy to create consumers, subverting the drives of social and sexual dissatisfaction by channeling them into brand loyalty and consummation, rather than questioning the values of the corporate state. It avoids the crisis
All right. Monsieur
of
Tiedrick
initiation to keep the population
Monsieur Tiedrick says, be careful, Frank. Don't sneeze. There are drones listening for coughing and sneezing. They are removing sick people. Yeah, it's true. I don't want to say too much, but I can type it, I guess.
And uncertain in an extended adulthood. Ah, I love that phrase. Whilst simultaneously breaking social cohesion in favor of the individual, which is meant the individual as production consumption units rather than as a sovereign individual. Rebellion is therefore employed as a key element in modification. Individuals are simultaneously hypersexualized and de-eroticized. Marcuse wrote eloquently on this, and it's not necessary to embrace his entire Marxist theology to utilize such incisive tools of critique. Put simply, most modern rebellion is not rebellion at all. Neither is it harmless. It is actively beneficial to the corporate culture and values it purports to reject. The rebel is rendered impotent by their consumption, whether of pornography or possessions, caught by their own reflection from breaking free into possibilities of experiences not mediated by constant reference to the screen ideal. Rebellion has, through these and other methods, been very neatly transformed into a tool that creates self-slavery. This is very, very political, somewhat hyper-liberal, but I think the point he's making is very, 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 very true. Because if you recall in Network, I'm breaking from Peter right now. You recall in Network that that the television industry exploited the Black Panthers and the Symbionese Liberation Army and all of that. They exploited them. They used them for business. Yeah, they were. So rebellion becomes even left-wing liberal rebellion serves the corporate cause. But that is the author here, kind of ranging into politics. In our case, what is important about Isaiah is that he is scapegoating the people of Israel and the women especially for sinning and we fell to the Assyrians and we got hauled away to Babylon because we were weak and because we turned away from God and all of this. This is very much like these preachers that were saying that 9/11 was successful because we turned away from God and we were no longer God-fearing, so that allowed the suicide kamikazes to go ahead and bring down our World Trade Center. Yeah, it's all our fault. Yeah. Anyway, the point here, as far as the women are concerned, to blame it on the women, is that Lucifer is equated by Isaiah as the morning star. And the morning star is Venus. And she is the goddess. And so, one of the aspects of Lucifer is the goddess. And that, of course, also symbolizes paganism. And as Isaiah was pointing out, the Judeans, after Solomon, were sliding back into paganism. And what's going on here is that heaven in which the Jews had inherited from the Canaanites was essentially God El Elyon, the God Most High, El, and his Elohim, who were the gods of the planets, the gods of the planets and the constellations of the zodiac, the gods of heaven, and these were pagan. These were pagan gods, and so when Isaiah is talking about Lucifer being expelled from heaven, falling, this is the fall of the pagan gods. This is what he's really doing. What he's really talking about here is Yahweh, Allah, making himself more important than El, taking over. And let's get on into further into the book here. Let's see. Lines following Isaiah, which opened the previous chapter, detail Lucifer's curse, crime. And I will examine them in more depth as the study proceeds. But it is important at this stage to provide an overview of his fall from grace. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. In the sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. Lucifer is styled as an upstart who seeks to set his own throne in the place of Yahweh. Should read El, not Yahweh. This is not overthrowing order. It is an attempt at achieving parity with the divine. Apotheosis. The elevation to the status of a god is the aim. This suggests a connection to a deeper strata of meaning. Of an ascendant myth or myths, Lucifer's fate is then pronounced. It is here that further vital details are given. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, and they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, did shake kingdoms, made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, and opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch. And as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden underfoot, thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Prepare slaughter for his children for the inquiry of their fathers, that they do not rise and possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Cast out of his grave, damned to be a wandering ghost, an exile, who will be nameless and no, and not garner the renowned due for the mighty dead. Branch here used in a metaphorical sense of the bloodline. And there is also the word play of the root and branch, meaning to guard, keep, watch, which is the role of the
That's some scary shit right there, Jeff.
king, who, in breaking with the limits of his duty, has become abominable. The contrasting ideas are deliberately set against each other. Isaiah extends the curse to the children of Lucifer, who are stained with their father's sin, a motif I will return to when considering the fate of the Nephilim. These verses are still scant remarks, not a developed cosmology. We have the sense that Isaiah has revealed and then failed to pursue its narrative. The reason for their misgivings is that these texts presuppose a cultural koine, a shared mythical language, in order to make sense of Lucifer beyond rebel posturing. This language must be mastered, for without it, there can be only sweeping cloud of grand speculative misunderstandings. The purpose of this study is therefore to reorient the occult tradition within this ground. This koine, in order to engage in meaningful ritual actions that are rooted in a shared ancestry. It may come as a surprise to those drawn to Lucifer who seek to escape the limits that monotheism imposes. But my counsel is not to turn aside, but to confront our Judeo-Christian heritage. The Bible is the essential companion to this work, and I have included full quotations of the necessary texts so as not to disrupt the narrative flow. Additional citations are included for those who wish to pursue their exegenic inquiry further. The Bible has, like a slow-moving glacier, not just evolved, but brought the wreckage of the mountaintops with it. So only the hardest stones have endured, being ground smooth or fissured into grit that slips through our fingers, seemingly unable to impart meaning. But the magician and witch work the dirt, knowing it has retained its virtue. We find tradition even here, sifted patiently from the meltwater of tottering seracs, whatever a serac is. The bright inheritance is here. Through fast-flowing rivers, it is trapped in the fleeces that glitter. This is nice. He knows what the golden fleece is used for. Flowing rivers is trapped in the fleeces which glitter with fragments of timeless gold, impatiently prospecting for the traditions which antecede both Judaism and Christianity. The ever bright light emerges. At this juncture, I must pause. I have
Inscribed upon the petals of a symbolic sunflower are the 72 names of God that in Hebrew is called the Shem HaMephorash. Originally, Shem HaMephorash, the 72-fold name, is highly important to the Sefer Raziel and a key, often missing, component to the magical practices of the Lesser Key of Solomon.
a grimoire calling up a hierarchy of Olympic spirits, which is featured in the fourth book of occult philosophy attributed to Henry Cornelius Agrippa, and that was published in 1655. And this is a very mysterious manuscript, which was outlined and summarized in the first installment, but never finished. However, there seems to be enough information, sigils, and instructions in what was published for some practical application. Frater Sithmeth will read his article on the Arbitel, and we will explore the possible use in relation to planetary magic. So, if quaint and forgotten books of lore fascinate you, join with us, and we'll have a look at one of the most mysterious. And let me introduce Frater Sithmeth, who is, I said very honored Frater Sithmeth because he is sixth degree in the Crater-Rapoa system, and that is, one of the higher Rosicrucian degrees. So, Frater Sithmeth, are you there and with us?
I believe I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So go ahead and proceed with your article on the Arbitel of Magic.
I'd be happy to. I just want to check the sound levels. Last time I called in to discuss Pepe the Frog, I was apparently very quiet. Am I coming through very much loud and clear?
You're coming through loud and clear, and so keep it up at that level, and it'll be fine. Go ahead.
All right. In all things, call upon the name of the Lord, and without prayer unto God through his only begotten Son, do not thou undertake to do or think anything. Aphorism 2, the Arbitel of Magic. Mysterious tomes of ancient and half-forgotten lore, forged in secret by unknown hands, revealing to those souls brave enough to read them the great and terrible truths of the darkest magic. Such concepts are surely the stuff of mere fantasy and occult fiction. Yet in 1575, at a Swiss publishing house, a short yet powerful book came into public existence. Titled Arbitel de Magia Veterum, or Arbitel of the Magic of the Ancients, is more commonly known by the simpler yet enigmatic title, the Arbitel of Magic. Little is known about the creation of this work, and less still about the mysterious author, or even precisely when it was written, although it is unlikely to have been written earlier than the mid-16th century, due to the nature of its contents and some internal references to the works of Paracelsus. Unknown, too, is the precise meaning of the word Arbitel. Arthur Edward Waite, in his book of ceremonial magic, assumes that the title is derived from the Hebrew name of an angel, which he surmises must have revealed the book's magical knowledge to its author. Others have suggested that it is a form representing the tetragrammaton, due to its similarity to the Hebrew word arbothim, meaning fourfold, and al, or God. Another idea is that it is the author's pseudonym, or perhaps even the Arabian word for divine chariot, arbat el. But whether any of these are even close to correct may never be known. Published and republished over the many centuries since it first came into being, the Arbitel has been scrutinized and studied continuously in the occult community. Featuring prominently in the fourth book of occult philosophy ascribed to Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, it was more recently and comprehensively dissected by the renowned occult scholar Donald Tyson in his publication of Agrippa's work. The book itself is divided into a series of 49 aphorisms, or statements of principle. These, being gathered into 7 groups of 7 septenaries, outline a course of magical study neatly categorized into 9 distinct tomes, none of which actually exist. For the greatest mystery regarding this work is the fact that it seems little more than the first book in a series of books which were never published. As Donald Tyson writes in his analysis of the work, the Arbitel was conceived by its anonymous author as a substantial work of 9 books. Of these, only the first book was completed. But it is prefaced by an outline for the entire work. There is no evidence that any but the first book was ever written. It is more probable that the author intended the outline to serve as the template for his ambitious opus, and that after composing the first book, he lost interest or was otherwise prevented from finishing the plan. General contents of each of these 9 books is broadly outlined, and the specific subject matter to be contained therein described. The first of these books is entitled Isagoge, a Greek word meaning introduction, and presents the general principles of magic according to the author. Potently Christian in tenor, as many traditional grimoires are, the author wishes there be no doubt that his magic is sacred, done openly in the sight of God and the angels, with their approbation and aid. A noteworthy difference, however, to other works of magic is the emphasis that the practicing magician not separate himself from social interaction, but rather involve himself actively within the community, favoring kindness, charity, and honesty over remote and obscure rituals. The second book, as intended by the author, entreats the aspiring magician to fervently pray and seek the counsel of God and his angels. A specific prayer is given, and Tyson suggests that this particular chapter of work is dedicated to the invocation of one's own personal genius, otherwise known as the holy guardian angel. The Lord of heaven and earth, creator and maker of all things visible and invisible, I, though unworthy, by thy assistance call upon thee through thy only begotten Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, that thou wilt give unto me thy Holy Spirit to direct me in thy truth unto all good. Amen. Because I earnestly desire perfectly to know the arts of this life and such things as are necessary for us, which are so overwhelmed in darkness and polluted with infinite human opinions, that I of my own power can attain to no knowledge in them, unless thou teach it me. Grant me therefore one of thy spirits, who may teach me those things which thou wouldst have me know and learn, to thy praise and glory and the profit of our neighbor. Give me also an apt and teachable heart, that I may easily understand those things which thou teach me, and may hide them in my understanding, that I may bring them forth as out of thy inexhaustible treasures to all necessary uses. And give me grace, that I may use such gifts humbly, with fear and trembling, through our Lord Jesus Christ, with thy Holy Spirit. Amen. Of the sacred magic of Abramelin the mage, which famously details the means of contacting one's holy guardian angel, was published in 1608, 33 years after the Arbatel.
That's some funny shit right there, Owen.
The third book is dedicated to the invocation of the Olympic spirits, or governors of the 7 planets. A great deal more detail is presented within the span of these 7 aphorisms, detail which practicing magicians will be all too familiar with. The practical method for making use of the 7 governors is given concisely. Each is called in his own hour by the proper name and office. And
yeah, I don't have any money in crypto, Jeff. I have heard that they are playing games with it. I was kind of predicting from the very beginning that, or I did rather, I predicted from the very beginning that the whole trend towards crypto was going to be a grand scheme by the elite just to alleviate people of the burden of their wealth and have the effect of just sending it all upward. I mean, because what can you really do? You take all your hard-earned money that you had in other accounts and then put it into blockchain, and then it suddenly drops all its value, while insiders, people that have the inside scoop, do their inside trading, and Nancy Pelosi winds up with a couple more cool billion, whereas you wind up with negative numbers. So I don't know.
by the displaying of his particular sigil or character, which has been tested by the magician and confirmed by the governor himself to be valid. Certain powers and abilities may be drawn from communion with these spirits, according to the Arbatel. Powers such as the ability to turn anything into stone, invisibility, teleportation across vast distances, greatly extending one's own life, or even magically creating the philosopher's stone. And although the distinct names and sigils of 7 planetary spirits are given in this 3rd septenary, a very important point is made, that the names of the Olympic spirits are not fixed, but vary from one magician to another as they are delivered by the spirit referred to as the Spirit the Revealer. This is probably the tutelary genius or holy guardian angel of the magician, which acts as an agent or intermediary in communication with the spirits. The author states that the names of the Olympic spirits seldom have any efficacy above 40 years. They are delivered to the magician for his personal use and cannot be used by other or later generations with any expectation of success. The implication is that each person must seek his own names of the Olympic spirits and his own set of characters or sigils. Therefore, the names given in the Isagoge are frustratingly only examples. The author gave the advice that young practitioners should work by the offices of the spirits alone, without their names, and if they are preordained to the practice of magic, those names will be given in due course. The 7 names that are given do appear in other grimoires: Aratron for Saturn, Behor for Jupiter, Phaleg, Mars, Ok, the Sun, Hagith, Venus, Ophiel, Mercury, and Phal, the Moon, appear prominently in the veritable Key of Solomon by Stephen Skinner and David Rankin. This particular version of the ever-infamous Key of Solomon was taken from a 1796 French manuscript and presents a comprehensive system of occult operations dealing with the specific Olympic spirits found within the pages of the Arbatel, and although published over 200 years later, offers the practicing magician a viable and extant alternative to the Arbatel's missing 3rd book.
Hey there, Sandra Sue. You just missed a prayer to the Almighty, a really good one that is on the Hermetic Hour. I've made my own rendition of it. It's good to see you out in Happy Land. Welcome to the show. I'm trying to keep my voice down a little, like Owen says. I don't want to wake up the old wifey and have her raise hell that I'm not washing dishes and cleaning floors.
Enigmatically, the 7 spirits, despite their transience of their names, are said to rule over curiously large and specific passages of time. According to the author, each governor rules over eras of 490 years. The parade of these eras, beginning in 60 BC, for unknown reasons, places us neatly in the era of Ophiel, of the planet Mercury, which apparently began in the year 1900. What precisely will occur when this cycle ends in the year 2879 can only be guessed at. One final curiosity within this section is the foreboding caution. A man that is a true magician is brought forth a magician from his mother's womb. Others who do give themselves to this office are unhappy. Precisely what this means is unclear. It might indicate the need to be a natural psychic or scryer. It may simply refer to that strange and ineffable pull towards the mystical that all true practitioners feel. But taken at face value, it would seem to suggest that one must be born a natural magician in order to work with these spirits. The 4th book is titled Hesiodiacal and Homeric Magic, the magic dealing with the Greek mythological lore described in the poetry of Hesiod and Homer, and the manner of controlling the spiritual creatures of the pagans, here called cacodemons, evil spirits, in such a way that those spirits may be induced to help in an act in a helpful manner. Among these spirits are the satyrs, dryads, sylphs, nymphs, and similar earthbound spirits of springs, trees, hills, stones, meadows, pools, and rivers. They are in contrast to the celestial spirits of the planets and their legions of serving spirits. Due to the undeniably passionate Christianity of the author, it is difficult to know whether the pagan earth spirits that would be treated in this book are actually evil or merely maligned, transformed by the Catholic Church, as the goddess Astarte was, into terrible demons. Such spirits bear curious resemblance to the Seti, or she, of the fairies of Celtic legend, and it is interesting to note that the Book of Oberon, a grimoire dedicated to the Fae folk, was completed in 1577, only 2 years after the Arbatel. The fifth book, to Roman, or Sibylline magic, similar to the imperial ambitions of the English magician and scholar Dr. John Dee, this work is intended to call spirits that are placed over different geographical regions of the world. It should be noted that the publication of the Arbatel was contemporary to the life and work of Dr. John Dee, but predates his first meeting with his infamous scryer Edward Kelly by 7 years. It is quite possible that the Arbatel's mysterious seal of secrets, an elaborate wheel of spirit names described in Aphorisms 27, belongs to this particular branch of Arcana. The wheel is not dissimilar to other spirit wheels, such as the Master Mandala of our order. The Arbatel is noteworthy for what it omits as for what it includes. The way of drawing the seal of secrets is described, but the names and placements of the spirits that should occupy it are not given. The 7 seals of the Olympic spirits of the planets are depicted, yet the manner of using those seals is never explained. Also to be covered was the doctrine of the Druids. The author gives no hint to the nature of this subject. Tyson suggests that perhaps augury, the magic of omens and signs, was intended, since this is associated both with the Sibylline books and with the Druids, who were famed for their powers of divination. The 6th book was to detail Pythagorical magic. Named for the Greek philosopher Pythagoras of the 5th century before Christ, this chapter of the Arbatel would undoubtedly have borne close resemblance to the numerology of Agrippa's 2nd book of occult philosophy, and may have included predictive astrological magic. Book 7 is dedicated to the magic of Apollonius. Apollonius of Tyana, whose life was described biographer Philostratus, was a 1st century mystic and possible contemporary of Jesus Christ. He was most renowned for his ability to cast out evil spirits, and his fame is perhaps second only to that of Jesus in this regard. This auspicious chapter likely dealt with exorcism, and perhaps even a form of goetic evocationary magic. Book 8, entitled Hermetical or Egyptian Magic, was likely set aside for a very specific form of ancient arcana. As Tyson puts it, the Egyptians were concerned with a process of theurgy, known as god-making, whereby they induced spirits to descend and indwell in statues or other images, imbuing them with animation. In this way, the spirits indwelling in physical vessels could be more easily contacted and utilized by the magician.
I agree with you, Jeff. You have to be more covert. You got to keep it on the down low. and not let everyone know exactly what you're up to. If you want to maintain that spark of the divine and one's motivation and passion in life, I mean, when you're up against the dark celestials, you got to do what you can to keep your fire alive.
It is likely this chapter would have dealt with such magic. As Hermes Trismegistus said, they invented the art of making gods out of some material substance suited for this purpose, and to this invention they added a supernatural force whereby the images might have power to work good or hurt, and combined it with a material substance. That is to say, being unable to make souls, they invoked the souls of daemons and implanted them in the statues by means of certain holy and sacred rites. Hermes called this the telestic art. Tyson believes that Book 9, or prophetical magic, in contrast to the druidic divination of Book 5, would have been intended for the interpretation and manipulation of biblical passages for the purpose of prophecy. It is strange that the Arbatel, essentially being an incomplete and limited work, would be chosen to feature so prominently in the fourth book of occult philosophy, alongside more eminently practical works on geomancy and ritual. Placement has the odd feel of a modern extract, as if it was included out of expectation or the desire to be obsessively completist. Donald Tyson, in a moment of academic whimsy, muses that it would be a fascinating project for a writer having some depth of knowledge and ability in practical magic to recreate the Arbatel in its entirety.
It's funny you should mention this last one here, Jeff. Pause that for a second. Jeff says this, and it's true. Like, the entire time I taught swing, I studied swing for 5 or 6 years, and then I taught a class for about 6 years. And during that entire tenure of swing dancing, I never let that intention cross into my teaching. I always kept it just pure, just about the activity, just about cultivating my personality, just about learning to be a better teacher of some new art that I had learned. So yeah, that's funny to think about. It never crossed it crossed my mind. Of course, I'm not a corpse, but I never let it influence the teaching.
Perhaps meant to offer only a template of magical study, empty chapters whose broadest contents are only generally defined, such that the individual and gifted magician might compose his very own personal Arbatel of magic as his studies and skills progressed. A completed Arbatel, the mark of a true magician.
Yeah, and to
was excellent.
To reference this, Jeff,
you have some.
That's just ordinary mammalian behavior. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In my opinion, it's the highest expression of humanity, is the union of yin and yang, man and woman. In my humble mind, that's what it's all about. That's why we're here, because we want to dance the dance of the cosmos. And so yeah, never anything wrong with that. You needn't apologize. Not in this chat room, sir. We are here to express the divine, and that's certainly a part of the divine. I'm catching up with the chat, guys. Let me see where we're at here. Owen says he could do a version of the bumba, where he dragged his arse along around like a dog. That's no fun, man. That shit ain't cute. You got to drink every night, Jeff. That's brilliant. Uh, yeah, let's do a little reading of the Hermetic keys. I don't know how much you guys like that, but let me see if that's working. Yeah, it looks good. According to the Kabbalion, which was written 100 years ago by a anonymous author simply known as the Three Travelers, I believe is who they were referred to themselves. I forget. I'll look it up here in a minute. Um, but chapter 2 of the Kabbalion starts off with the principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key, before whose touch all doors of the temple fly open. There is the rabbi with the vestments on and smoking the oleobanum, frankincense and myrrh, and throwing open the doors of the temple. And this is a little bit of what the temple looks like from the inside. That's when you're high magic right here, my friends. The cosmic dance of yin and yang, man and woman. This was a practice session before class. None of the students had showed up yet. The 7 Hermetic principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. Principles of 1. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These 7 principles will be discussed and explained as we proceed with these short lessons. The principle of mentalism, the all is mind, the universe is mental. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses, is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered, thought of as an universal, infinite, living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occur such a large portion of the public attention. And, excuse me, let me reread that. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. This is a key sentence here. Pay attention to that. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This is another very important sentence here. With the master key in your possession, you may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. So that there was the first of the 7 Hermetic principles, mentalism. And it expresses that we're all existent within the all mind. And yeah, not a lot more I can comment on that.
Following notes on this, but you want to cite the main bibliographic reference would of course be the fourth.
Let me catch up on the chat.
Tyson edited, and that of course is available from the Welland Publications. Not to be confused with the big black book of occult philosophy. This is the second one, the fourth book of occult philosophy, and it has a kind of
oddly red.
Yeah, it's kind of a maroon cover. Whereas the first book's black. Thank you so much, Brother Smith. That was a very, very beautiful presentation. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to put that up as a blog on our website, if you would, and please do. And then we can, on some of the comments section on the blog, we can make some of the comments that we'll do as a follow up. So yeah, as I say, please definitely do that so the members can all read it. And now Tyson's as you said, Tyson's speculation about magicians who have done this. Immediately, I think about Barton and his second, Barton's second book.
When I was drunk, my dad said,
Magical
"A strict
Evocation."
Christian,"
I think,
and told me dancing was evil and of the devil. That's funny. That's so funny. Only joke was yesterday. I've got a little leprechaun today. What's going on with the chat, guys? I'm trying to catch up. Owen says, "Only joking. That was yesterday. I've been a good little leprechaun today." Good man, Owen. Yeah, you guys may not know, but Owen is from Ireland, and so that always touches me Irish heart when I think about me Irish brother. And Monsieur Tiedrick here, he looks like Charlemagne, so I thought that he was French. So I call Jeff Monsieur Tiedrick because he looks like Charlemagne. Sandra Sue here, she's got some Scandinavian and Irish heritage. Um, I know that Mary lives in New Scotland, so she lives in the New Scotland. And Mary, you might be Irish descent too, or Celtic. I like to talk about ethnic origins and descent. I'm not sure about Diane. I'm guessing that Diane is probably Scandinavian or Dutch. The U.S. is made up of people that claim it's approximately, I'll put it in the chat. So according to census data in the USA, right, there's approximately 300 million folks, right? And of that, 150 million, I'll do it this way. So 150 million claim their ancestry as descendant from German, and then about 75 million claim their ancestry as Irish. This is according to official census data. And then there's, I believe, about 30 million uh, claim, um, what is it, British. But Brit, that really makes, that's still Celtic and Germans mostly, right? And then all of the other ethnic categories are much lower, because look at how much that is already. I'll just throw it in the chat window there. Yeah, so in the US, we've got what, 330 million people, and 150 million are German descent, which makes up about 50% of the population. Then you put the 75 million Irish descents on there, and you already got 225 million. That makes up 2/3 of the US population is German Irish. And then British is around 30 million, which is higher than most other ethnicities. So after that, you have to take into consideration French, Italian, Spanish, Jews, right? Jews make up about 20. No. Jews, I think, only make up about a little over 2 million, but their genetics are mixed in with pretty much every one of these categories. So you'll have uh, Hebrew Germans, Germans with Hebrew, Irish with Hebrew, British, and so on. And so when you think about Germanic ethnicities, that's going to include all of the ethnicities around the Caucasian Mountains. And that's why we're called Caucasians, if you fit into that category, because it's the Caucasus Mountains, right? The Caucasoids. Um, yeah, the Scots and Irish are the horny German scientists, or the dirty psychics. That's funny, Owen. Sandra Sue says she loves the Scots and Irish. I always love to sing a good an Irish drinking song when I can. 'Twas down the glen one Easter tide, but I'm not going to, because I'll wake my wife up, and she'll come out here raging, because she suffers from wrath, right? She's a bit of a rager. So wrath is the 6th level of Dante's Inferno. So watch out if you're guilty of wrath. Then according to the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno, then the 6th level of hell is reserved for those who suffer from wrath. And they just turn into basically like they all unify into these like waves of meat flesh and just bash themselves against each other for all eternity. I was listening to a breakdown of the Divine Comedy last night. I have a copy of all 3 books illustrated on my desk over here. I've got The Inferno, Paradiso, and Purgatorio. some of my favorites from college. Another one I have is an illustrated copy of Paradise Lost, Milton. It's really beautiful. Um, yeah, so Jeff, just to be 100% honest, she's a bit of a rage case, but we've been married for almost 20 years now, and she's mellowed out a lot. Uh, the first decade and a half kind of took the bite out of her a little bit, but she's an interesting combination. Her zodiac sign is a Leo, and she's also born in the year of the Chinese fire snake. So she has two very fiery signs, and I think she's a Sagittarius ascendant. I think I got something on my nose. Yeah, I think she's a Sagittarius. I haven't really done her chart in a long time, and she's basically all fire elements. So she's just a very fiery personality. But it's required because I'm a very watery personality, and I need that intense fire to heat me up and break me out of my inertia. Hey, look, Chris is in the chat. Good to see you, Chris. Hello, Chris. Chris, hey, how you doing there, lad? Yeah, so Owen and Chris, you guys are, you're both out on the islands. Chris is on jolly old England, and then Owen is on the Irish Isles. So, what is the body of water that separates Ireland and the United Kingdom? I know that Northern Ireland is a part of the United Kingdom, but yeah, there's the Irish Isle, then there's the island of the UK, which has, what is it? The north is England and the south is Scotland. Is that correct? Oh, it's called the Irish Sea. Okay. I wonder if on the other side of the Irish Sea they call it the British Sea or the English Sea. That's funny.
I think I think he's very definitely influenced by the Arbatel, and he went and got all the spirits himself, and you know and did the sigils in the back of the book. You know, his sigils are all automatic writing, whereas the sigils that the author of the Arbatel has, the sample sigils, appear to be kind of like they're derived from Kameas of some sort. And also, what do you think? You know, I honestly feel like the Arbatel influenced D.M. Kelly with their Enochian workings. You know, the governors and terrestrial victory, the governors applied to the regions of the earth. There's so much influence, and the Arbatel, of course, was published at least about 60 years before D.M. Kelly actually came out with their work. What do you think about that?
Well, it's hard to say, simply because the author of the Arbatel is utterly unknown. The only thing known about it is that its first publication, of course, appeared in Switzerland in 1575. But yeah. It's certainly true that, I mean, the Book of Oberon appeared a couple of years later, and I think that work was published. I think it was published in England. I'm not sure about that, but it's quite possible there was a network of. I mean, there may have very well been a network of occultists. So John Dee was he was a socialite and, of course, important to Queen Elizabeth I. It's very possible it was one of his students or perhaps one of his associates, and they may have shared the information. But really, that's only speculation. But it definitely has a feeling of the magic of the day of the 1500s. which would,
And
I mean, it could possibly be that one of the reasons why the author never published his 9 books is perhaps because the material was already out there. It may very well have been published by others, and perhaps he felt it may have been, I don't know, redundant to publish his works, or maybe he died. It is speculation.
Yeah, that's possible. And the you know, the whole idea of the Olympic spirits. We know that during this period, the Italians especially, and this book apparently is originally Italian. The Italians were reviving classical paganism, and they were reviving it, and of course, and Dante almost gave it a kind of a Christian imprimatur, because he had the virtuous pagans down in his Tartarus, and so there's so much of this Italian Renaissance that that is Florentine. I mean, I reading between the lines in the Arbatel. It's almost like you can see somebody in Florence writing this thing. It just seems like I would love to get I'd love to get Jocelyn Godwin's interpret.
Yeah, make sure you guys get over there and check out Chris's YouTube channel and give him a sub if that's appropriate. Look, some of his videos have really hit some great heights. One of these ones that he did on a UFO rendering, I believe it's CGI, hit millions of views at one point. Here it says 935K, right? 446K, 276K. But I remember when I saw, I think your first channel, Chris, it was in the millions. So that's what the icon looks like. There's the channel. Chris puts out a lot more of his work on, Chris, you put more of your work on Instagram than you do on YouTube. It looks like you haven't updated your YouTube channel in quite a while. Yeah, Soylent Green's no kind of fun, huh? I've heard that the human body, when it decomposes, it releases a lot of gases, methane and other types of gases, but they can be used as fuel. And so some of those burials, underground burials, cryptoriums or whatever, the crypts, were used as fuel sources. And these days they can turn human beings into petrol. They can just throw your bodies into a big vat, and then melt you down into petrol. So that's interesting. Yeah. So, Chris's Instagram channel is O10 Vex, and it's easy to find on Instagram. He puts a lot more stuff up there. And right now, guys, if you are at all interested, which is what I had originally planned to do, was watch the Dark Journalist live transmission this morning. And let me show you that real quick. So I had set the reminder, and originally when I got up this morning, I was going to go over and watch the Dark Journalist live transmission. So Dark Journalist, make sure you check him out. He's got 131K subs, 376 videos. He's done quite a bit of work, but it turns out he's hosting Gigi Young today, who I disagree with Gigi Young on a lot of stuff. And so I figured I'd do my own live stream because Monsieur Tiedrick was out there in Happy Land asking about me. So, yeah, good job. Hey, I see Jeff out there. Look at that. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you saying that. See what they're saying.
And then we become more unified, essentially healing the split that occurred in Atlantis. So we actually heal that split through inner balancing of our masculine and feminine energies, our positive and our negative polarity, the Ida, the Pingala, the sun, the moon, the white sun, the black sun, however you want to, you can do different planets there, whatever it is, but it's part of our being. And so we heal that split through this spiritual process over many lives. And it's a beautiful split because it allowed us to understand nuance and understand detail that we don't really have when we were the more of the androgynous form. There's another element to it as well. So the first thing is that it could be, again, a misinterpretation and a misunderstanding of spiritual works. And sometimes, groups will get their hands on material and they won't understand it. And if your mind is literalized, it's materialized too much, it's hyper-materialized, you're going to look at a spiritual process and you're going to think that this is a physical thing you need to do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what you don't understand how to even get the mechanics going spiritually. It's like, what? I mean, I don't understand sometimes how to get the spiritual things going, so it's like, so the easiest thing to literalize it and say, oh,
not you, come on.
Yeah, right. So much time on it, so it's like, it's so hard to do. And so it's totally understandable that, we would literalize it and think it's a physical thing or primarily a physical thing when it's actually a mystery, a spiritual thing. The other thing that's really interesting, and this actually isn't something that
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that Gigi promotes, is that gray aliens are evil and they're trying to harvest human energy. And I don't know. It's like, what evidence do you have for that? How much interaction have you had with gray aliens? Like, I consider myself to be a highly advanced spiritual researcher. I've been doing Qigong since I was a teenager and practicing systems of astral projection and Taoism and all different forms of ceremonial magic and so on and so forth. And she's just a hot toddy on the scene and a big Blavatsky thumper with theosophy. And as far as like their genuine spiritual research, I haven't seen them put forth anything of value that really does any type of adds any value to the mystery school tradition. Like, they talk a big game and they point at it a lot, but where's these substantial practices? I prefer my Apollo Asteria, to be honest with you. She's still on there. Let's give her a shout out. I haven't given a shout out to Apollo's Odyssey in a long time. Apollo's Odyssey, there it is. Yeah, so if you want to find, good shout out, Jeff. If you want to find, so anyway, to finish off my thoughts on Gigi, I think Gigi's full of shit 90% of the time. I've listened to a lot of what she has to say, and none of it seems to be of instrumental value. None of it seems to be serviceable. I could teach you guys in 30 seconds more about spirituality than she could teach you in 100 hours of webinars. The fourfold breath of the Tetragrammaton is a great start. It's a very simple, easy practice. You breathe, you learn to control the breath. It's a form of very simplified Qigong. So you imagine the fire element as you breathe in and count to 4. So imagine fire enveloping the body. On a count of 4, then you hold. So that's the Yud Hey. You hold on the Hey, which is the water element, for a count of 4. 2, 3. Hold it, and then exhale the air element for a count of 4. 2, 3, 4, and then you hold on the earth element for a count of 4. So something as simple, just taught it to you in 30 seconds, right? something as simple as the four-fold breath would be of greater value to you than listening to 100 hours of her opine, pontificate, and speculate on Blavatsky's teaching. Oh God, what a waste of time! What a bunch of miasma! But that's just my humble opinion, and this is coming from a guy with over 30 years of researches into the Hermetic tradition, and as well as all systems of Eastern Oriental Taoism and Kung Fu and Qigong and magic here in Old Twilight Zone, Old Peking. I mean, I've been through all the temples here. I've trained with all the great gurus. I'm an early student of Master Ni Huaqing. I lived with him in his Medford, Oregon retreat back when I was 21 to 23 years old. And at that time, I already had 10 years of Kung Fu training under my belt. And this was nearly 30 years ago. Yeah, and Jeff, that's just, I mean, I it's just my personal opinion. I think she's a big time fraud. She's always in every video I've ever watched of hers, and I've watched quite a few. She's erroneous at best and hurtfully misleading sometimes. So I don't think she's offering much, but that's just my opinion. Again, let's check out Apollo's Odyssey. Apollo's Odyssey, Apollo Asteria. She's a lot more fun to watch. Um, yeah, I would definitely rather spend my time. Um, and I'll tell you the huge. I'll tell you why. Let me break it down for you. Um, the reason I would rather watch Paula Asteria, and I don't watch her much anymore either, but she's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed her content over the years. But Paula Asteria adopts the attitude of not knowing and looking for answers. So rather than presenting herself as a spiritual guru that knows everything and has it all figured out, Paula does interviews, and oh God, this was a disaster. This show, watch it. I was in the chat room on this one, and Laura Eisenhower was like drunk out of her mind. I mean, you can drink if you like, but you should never come to an interview just wasted. She was shit faced, and like she was like hiding out and smoking a crack pipe during it too. It was so funny. What a disaster. But anyway, that's no reflection on Paula. But yeah, Paula says she loves that old Lauren Eisenhower. But they're all, I mean, I got to be honest with you, Jeff. They're all scam artists. They're all scamming on the what I call the Azure Avian Association. So they're all trying to follow like Wilcox and Good and try to scam people into buying their merchandise based on the idea of um, aliens crossbreeding pigs with monkeys in order to make human beings. So if 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 aliens crossbreeding uh, pigs with monkeys make people is your jam. So if number one you're in the blue chicken cult and you think that Corey Good and Wilcock, I mean Wilcock was a great guy. I loved him in the beginning, but he went down the path of decadent debauchery into just so far out there sci-fi fantasy that it became unbearable. Um, and then if the other thing is if you fall in with the aliens crossbreeding pigs with monkeys to make people, if you think that's where people came from, then these guys are probably your jam. Yeah, I've listened to Laura Eisenhower talk too, and she is so scatterbrained that I couldn't make any sense of anything she had to say. I got to be honest with you, Jeff. I've had personal contact with Greys, and it's not a nuts and bolts experience. The way Greys operate is multidimensional, and they're not out there to abduct people to do research. They understand the human being at a higher level than human beings understand themselves. And they're basically guardians of the lower astral, and they can work as guides and guardians on the lower astral. But if you already harbor a lot of negativity and fear in your mind about spirituality, and you have a deep-seated level of neurosis when it comes to occult and esoteric teachings, then yeah, the Greys will appear to you as villainous, but that's not what they're up to. Villainy and righteousness appear within the human sphere of us manifesting between heaven and earth. But the sci-fi fantasy way that which they present the UFO observer experience is not actually what's occurring. It's a it's a co-created conscious-based experience. So I don't want to reveal too many of the secrets on live television because it's up to each individual to figure out in their own time what's going on. And then you'll filter it and understand it through your own lens. How do I get them to come here, Frank? Owen, what are you referring to? Explain yourself, Owen. Owen says, she's the girl version of Hunter Biden. Sounds like it. Yeah, she was. And with her children there, too. I mean, it seemed heartbreaking to me. Maybe she's trying to cover up a bunch of childhood trauma by self-medicating on an excessive amount of pharmaceuticals and whatever else she had going on. But she couldn't keep her mouth off the fucking glass dick. Every 5 minutes, she had to hide from the camera and suck down a little rock. So it was sad. How do I get them to come here, Frank? How do you get who to come here, Owen? And the book sales, Mary. Let me see what I got to catch up with the chat, guys. I think people forget sometimes that the internet is just people and their own stories and experiences, no matter how many times they say they are a professor or a guru. Yeah, I agree with you, Mary. I don't present myself as a guru, but I've studied with some of the greatest gurus of the early era of Chinese Taoism in the United States. I trained under Mike Patterson for 10 years, and he was from Taiwan. He's a British guy, but his lineage, I came to China in order to trace my Shifu's lineage. And I also lived with Master Ni Huaqing as his personal assistant and secretary for 2 years, who's the chancellor of Yosan University in Los Angeles, California. His offices are in Santa Monica, California. So I apprenticed myself to, and I read all of Master Ni's books. I read about 100 books on that Master Ni had translated into English, of course, on natural living and Taoism by the time I was like 16 or 17 years old. And so I went through every 15th century grimoire and every 19th writer on occult studies and hermetics and ceremonial magic. By the time I was 20, I had a library of probably 2,000 volumes. And that I had acquired from esoteric bookshops and controversial bookstore. And not only that, I was living it daily, every day, getting up at 4 a.m., doing my meditation, doing a couple of hours of Kung Fu, working a regular job in the community. And I went 2 years on a vow of silence, and every day wrote the same incantation, like an abracadabra talisman. 2 years I vowed silence, and I would occasionally have to talk because I was, in business and in school and stuff, but 90% of the time I would swallow every word, and that was in my 20s. So I lived it. I lived the guru life, and that was as a young man trying to find a guru. So I became extremely disenchanted with gurus because I met some of the top guys, and they just turned out to be ordinary people. Poke Runyon, Master Ni Hua Qing, um, who were the other guys? Robert Anton Wilson, Israel Regardi. Um, I've crossed paths with all of those guys in my childhood and my early teens, looking for the guru experience, and it isn't a reality. It's what's required is once you learn the method, you practice it. That's all there is. I just taught you the fourfold breath. How many people are going to practice it daily? How many people at any opportunity they get are going to invoke with passion and enthusiasm and just simply sit back and breathe the reality of our divine realm that we live in, that we manifest in? Nobody's going to do it. They forget about it as soon as you tell them. So looking for gurus is not the answer. And I know that none of you guys, I know that all of you guys already know that. None of you guys are here looking for a guru. But some people are. And that's okay too. Because I looked high and low, and finally realized that the guru experience is it's not valuable. Well, it has its place. Don't get me wrong. I think that it does have its place. Yeah, so let's check this out. Oh, here's another fun guy. I'll show you guys real quick. Let me see, where's that? Right here. This guy, Theoria Apophasis. He's actually got some worthwhile and valuable teachings like on his channel, but I don't know how many of you can endure him. I can't hardly endure him because his level of hubris and narcissism are so palpable. It's so extreme. His level of narcissism and hubris is so extreme that he won't accept any admonition. So kind of a bummer. Hey, look, it shows me Friday the 13th, Beijing lockdown, day 18, and Memology 101. That guy's always fun. Let me get back over here and check out the chat though, and see what you guys are up to out in Happy Land. Because I'm missing it.
Patience on this, because he would certainly be able to give us it. Well, like I say, the hip. You can almost see the orbital and right alongside the hip neurotomachia. If they see they sort of seem to go together, and so I'm just really I'm fascinated by it, but my main fascination is all of the various magicians, both then and later, and later in England, and they were influenced by this tremendous influence. And
it is strange. It is strange that they were influenced so much by something which is essentially incomplete. Why that is, I don't know. It would be worth noting that the first publication of the Book of Occult Philosophy, the fourth book, so not just the Book of Occult Philosophy, but the fourth book of Occult Philosophy, which this has been included in, was actually published in 1559, which is about 17 years.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mary. Yeah, they book sales and super chats, and they'll read your comments. That's kind of why I tend to, when the chats sometimes get oversaturated, right? Like you saw Tattooed Monkey's chat has like 200 people, and then DJ's chat now has 2,000 people. And so once it gets to that level, it's just, there's no real value in interaction anymore. The group offsets itself by overexpansion. So smaller groups, I would say 50 to 200 is about the ideal size for these live streams. And even that, you have to have kind of a slowdown on the chat. Like, look, we've only got 5 or 6 people in our chat, and already it's impossible to keep up with. And I agree with you, Chris. This is a very eloquent way to summarize the way it should really work. Mary says, I have Mars Capricorn, some sort of order presenting people and being a teacher. Jeff mentions the Library of Alexandria. Yeah, I've heard of that, Jeff. I don't know much about it, though. I know that it was taken over by the Vatican, pretty much. The Romans took what they could carry, and what they couldn't carry, they burned. There are ways to access all of the material from the Library of Alexandria. I mean, if we take into consideration Einstein's theory of super relativity, then the future has already happened and the past continues to exist. So on the astral realm, the Akashic records, everything that ever has happened or ever will happen is accessible to the higher mind, the divine genius of the Magi. So the Magus can access these things, but how much of it can you bring into the relative sphere and into the material sphere? I call it bringing back golden cookies from dreamland. And honestly, even if you work really hard and spend a lot of your time on it, you can't bring very much back to share with other people. Your higher divine genius can learn a lot and cultivate itself at a higher level in the celestial spheres, but it's not knowledge that's meant for humanity to have. So that's why they call it a mystery tradition. Oh, wow, that's interesting, Mary. So Mary says, compared to your chart, Frank, me and Miss Mary Moon are similar, but you have a Saturnian, strong, orderly martial arts and taking courses and teaching courses kind of chart. I have a hiding out more chart, obviously. Yeah, it's funny too, because I like to hide out too. So I alternate between hiding out to do my own researches and then preparing my course material. And yeah, I love being a student. I love learning new things. And then, like, I believe it was Feynman, Robert Feynman, that scientist. That was his name, right? Feynman, Feyman, Feynman, Feynman, Feynman. The Feynman technique is that for everything you want to learn very well, you should endeavor to teach other people. So I always take my coursework whenever I take a class, a swing dance class, a martial arts class, a language class. I always do it with the intention of how can I reteach this material to others. Yeah, Richard Feynman. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Feynman technique. From what I understand, Chris, you can, and any scholar can. There's a certain procedure. Like, a lot of people think the Vatican archives are off limits. They're not, and some of the stories you hear are erroneous. If you are truly interested in that, Chris, I recommend a guy to you. I've probably recommended it in the past, and he just did a wonderful presentation on demons. His channel name is Esoterica, but he says that he gets access to the Vatican archives, and he says all you have to do is like fill out a scholarly academic application, and once you have that certification, like you don't even need to have a degree under your name. You just have to go through the process of filing an application. I think it's like a $10 or $20 fee or something. But once you have those credentials and they check you out and make sure they can, you're not going to steal stuff or damage stuff, you're not a lunatic or something, then you can have direct access to the Vatican archives and you can search through them And in fact, they encourage people to do it. They want more people to do it because they don't even know what they have archived there. Now, this is according to Dr. Justin Sledge over at Esoterica. I'll pull up his channel real quick so you guys can have a look at it. So I think you can just search it real easy, Esoterica, yeah. So let me throw it in the chat real quick for you guys. Yeah, so Dr. Justin Sledge over at Esoterica, and he just did a wonderful presentation on demons and demonology in the Talmud and early rabbinic literature, Jewish conceptions of demons. The production value of his videos is so high, and it's such a pleasure to watch him. He's absolutely my favorite for esoteric literature. One of his most popular videos you can see here is the Lesser Key of Solomon, Ancient Angelic Magic, the Book of Thoth, Solomonic Angel Summoning, the Almadal of Magic. I think he's probably done one on the Arbatel too. Arbatel. Not sure if he has, but I would imagine that he has. Yeah, the fourfold name of God, the Arbatim. Foolish Fish did a review on the Arbatel. Esoteric live stream with Dr. Justin Sledge. I don't see that he has a video on the Arbatel though. But yeah, his video work is fantastic. I mean, I'll give you just a little taste of what Dr. Sledge's stuff looks like. Let's look at his latest video. Talmudic Demonology. Really good. Let's check it out.
There are two things that I did to scale this
Oh, good God, man. Come on, are you serious?
coaching company, add clients to well over 8 figures in total revenue. And it wasn't...
Do I have to?
Demonology, like all aspects of religious mythology, shifts, alters, and transforms through history. As we've seen in my episode on Israelite demonology, the demonic population, as it were, of ancient Israel was surprisingly low compared to their neighboring civilizations in Mesopotamia and in Egypt. That would, of course, all change in the centuries following the Babylonian exile, starting around 586 BCE, with the rise of what scholars now call the apocalyptic mode of Judaism. The population of both angels and demons just positively exploded. From the books of Enoch, the New Testament, and the sectarian scrolls found at Qumran, the entire universe became filled with such metaphysical beings locked in combat, all of which would culminate in a final eschatological battle at the end of time. As the explosive magma of the apocalyptic cooled, so too did this intense and baroque attention paid to angels and demons. Early Christianity, while attesting to such beings, began the early process of systematically arranging their angelology and their demonology. That process, though, in rabbinical Judaism, on the other hand, was rather more complex. In this episode, I want to explore the demonology, as much as there is one demonology in rabbinic literature, specifically in the Talmud. While dozens of narratives concern demons, is there a systematic demonology to be found in the early rabbinic literature? How does geographic and cultural difference in this for free? Maybe you consider supporting my work on Patreon with a one-time Plex.
So here's the intro for his videos. Beautiful little wax seal, a little olebanium. Yeah, anyway, I thought I would share that with you. That's one of my favorite channels. I mean, he puts out a video every Friday, I think. So like once a week, sometimes 3 times a month. And then he does one live stream per month. So that's, for esoteric literature, that's probably my favorite. But he's not a practicing magician. He's not an actual practicing ceremonial magician. Not even chaos magic, just nothing. I don't even think he believes that magic works, but he doesn't. He's actually, I believe, stated that he doesn't really think there's a divine creator. He doesn't believe in God. So that's kind of fascinating to me, that someone would spend so much time researching the subject. And I do believe he is practicing in Judaism, but doesn't necessarily believe it. Let me try to catch up with the chat, guys. Yeah, Mary Moon over there at Mary, you used to have a channel with some good stuff on it, and then I think you said you either lost the password to it or it got deleted by YouTube. So yeah, in reference to that, guys, I started a backup channel just in case YouTube shuts me down again. So make sure, if you want to keep up with me, to add my backup channel, Lunar Light Entertainment. So far, I've just got a couple of videos of me and my daughter messing around, having fun. That wily Atlantean traveler from Lemuria, Mu, and other realms has appeared and manifested within the chat. Good to see you out there in Happy Land, Nunu. I'm trying to catch up with the chats here. Got some yos coming in. Yo, come on, get them fucking yos out there. That'll put the lead in your pencil. My daughter just got up too, which means I'm probably gonna have to cut this transmission short in about 5 or 10 minutes. If my wife gets up and catches me, they'll be hell to pay. Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. I occasionally like to have a nice little drinky poo. Egyptian tea, huh? That sounds interesting. I'm all about the Chinese tea. My favorite Chinese teas are jasmine, of course, because the smell is just wonderful. Night blooming jasmine, and Fujian red tea. Well, they call it red tea in Chinese and black tea in English. Fujian Hongcha. Fujian Hongcha. Jeff asked me if I like Chris Angel or David Blaine. Oh, absolutely. Those guys are fantastic stage magicians. You got to realize, though, Jeff, there's a clear distinction between stage magic and what we call magic with a K. So magic with a K means like ceremonial magic. You cast a magic circle, and then you invoke angelic forces within your magic circle and call upon the all mind to change the material sphere to your wills and whims. And you can even summon demonic forces or angelic forces to do things for you. But the highest level of magic, known as white magic within the traditional teaching, is just communication with your divine intelligence. So the essential pursuit of high magic is just to become a better person, to be all that you can be. You know, like the Army says, be all that you can be. It's just manifesting your own 100% level of attention to everything, kind of like the samurai's bushido, that you diligently focus on one task at a time. Like if I'm in the kitchen washing dishes or cooking dinner or something, and my wife comes in and tries to give me a bunch of static, you know, a bunch of white noise, I tell her, I say, honey, if you want the dinner to be filled with love and taste perfect, then you have to let me do this one task without interruption. And so if I'm mopping the floor, you know, I don't want to chit chat. I want to get the floor mopped. Um, I engage in single minded activities with great precision. I'm a professional janitor. Well, if not there, then I know a fact there's a gigantic below area in British Library. Secrets are buried somewhere, that's for sure. No, I'm not disagreeing with you, Chris. I think that there are secrets buried in the Vatican archives, but I think they're accessible too. According to Dr. Justin Sledge, I mean, I don't have personal access, but he says that he does. Yeah, wax seals are fun. I have a lot of those made here in China. I learned to carve them at one point, not very good at it, and I'm going to endeavor to carve seals. I have all the equipment and I have a bunch of blank seals, but I've never spent the energy and time to learn it to a high level. But I will, I promise. Seems good. To be right back. Mrs. has had a headache. Water wants and needs a drink. Yeah, you take care of the Mrs. Chris. Never leave the old lady hanging. Yeah, so I wanted to give a quick shout out to Lunar Light Entertainment. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, let me see if I can look it up real quick and share it with you.
Is before the publication of the Arbitel of Magic separately. I don't actually know whether it was included in that first publication. That's something I should actually look into. I didn't think to check that, but clearly it was significant enough to include in future.
Yeah, so here it is here. It looks like a few of you have already subbed it. Good job. Thank you for that. 9 subscribers with just 2 videos. So just look up Lunar Light Entertainment, throw it in the search engine, should pop right up. It's got my nice little moon and star symbol there. Someone told me that's the Islamic flag too, and I said, no, man, that's the Chinese character for Ming, meaning bright. So it's the moon's light and the light of the stars, right? So I haven't filled this out yet, but I'm just using it as a backup. As you can see, I just started it back on May 6th, and I just put a couple of videos up here. Me and Amber got a new tablet computer, and me and her chilling. So yeah, guys, if at any time Susan blocks me again, then that's where you can find me, over at Lunar Light. Because Susan has a tendency to block people. You know, she gets a wild hair up her ass, and next thing you know, she's blocking everyone. Frank, tell your wife you're talking to your family in America. Hey, that's funny, Jeff. That's actually what I did the other day. I think I was having a live stream, and I think you were the only one in the live stream, Jeff. And she like came in and she's like, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, no, I'm talking to my mom. So I'm talking to family back home. But yeah, you're right. You guys are my family. Yeah, absolutely. I thank you for that, Monsieur Tiedrick. I agree with that. Yeah, so where did I put it here? Okay. Yeah, so magic versus magic. Yeah, magic is like sleight of hand and stage magic and pyrotechnics and all of that kind of thing, you know, movie magic and stuff. But magic with a K is the hermetic study of universal principles and natural law. So yeah, there's definitely a difference there. Wow, we still have some folks out in the ideas room, so good. Thanks for tuning in, guys, today, and having a chat with me. It's good to see all of you. Good to see you, Atlantean Neo, Monsieur Tiedrick, Miss Mary Moon. Much love to you guys. Owen, Diane was here earlier. Sandra Sue was in the chat. Irish Owen out there in Ireland. As I was going over the Cork and Kerry mountains, I met with Captain Farrell and his money he was counting. I first produced me a pistol and I then produced me a rapier, saying stand and deliver, for I am a bold deceiver. Musha ring de la. Whack for the laddie-o, whack for the laddie-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Yeah, so it's always fun to see you guys, man. Thanks for tuning in. It looks like the family's starting to get up, so I got to roll out, do some kitchen work, do some housework, fire up some breakfasts, get some sausages on the grill. Thank you, Monsieur Tiedrick. I appreciate that. I will stay well and stay healthy. And this evening, Jeff, I plan on having myself a little fermented grape juice and having a toast to you, sir, Monsieur Tiedrick. Thank you for offering me support on the buymeacoffee.com. So if you guys don't know, here's my second of e-begging, right? Jeff has shown great support of the channel. So has Mary and Owen and all kinds of folks. In fact, there have even been a couple of people recently who have made anonymous donations without even leaving a comment. So if you guys do the old buy me a coffee thing, good to see you, Chris. Thanks for tuning in, man. Have a good day too. And I'll get to your Instagrams, man. I swear to God. Today I'm off. Today and tomorrow I have zero responsibilities for online teaching. So I'm going to get to all the things that have piled up on my desk. Mary offers us a Guten Tag for y'all. It's 10:47 and I've had 2 coffees, so she won't sleep for days. I'm going to throw on some Dark Journalist and thank you for the shout out in the Dark Journalist chat room, Jeff. That helps a lot. Yeah, so I'm going to throw on some Dark Journalists in the background. If you guys are over there, definitely, if you email me address in China. Wow, that would be fun, Mary. I'll do that. I don't even know if they allow postage between China and other countries right now. I think we're kind of on a boycott. Probably takes a month or longer to get mail there. Yeah, I used to send handwritten letters home to the US to all my friends and family. And it would take, it's funny. Sometimes it would get there in like 3 or 4 days, just regular postage, regular mail. And then sometimes it would take 6 months, or not 6 months, 6 weeks or closer to 2 months. But typically it almost always made it through. When I started sending packages home to my mom, then they started disappearing. And after nearly 20 years over here, I finally gave up because so many things started going missing. So there used to be a lot better relationship between the US and China and the rest of the world. Like when I first got here, it was kind of bad. I think it was at its high point. Like there were 20,000 American citizens living in Beijing. Now it's down to around 10,000, probably less now. But the new U.S. Embassy here, they built a new embassy here, and it alone has 3,000 employees. So I don't know, man. Things are cyclical, as you know, Mary. Things are cyclical. They go up and they go down and they go all around. Yeah. So final shout out for my little buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. Seems like a cool way to offer support if you do have the opportunity to do that. I am not an e-beggar though, so I'm just putting it out there as a passing suggestion. And as we sign off into the abodes of the night, I hope y'all good looking sexy people stay well out in Happy Land, as above, so below. Keep your nose to the grindstone and keep on keeping on. Good night to you, Mary. Good night to Chris, I'm gonna get on those Instagrams, Chris. I swear. I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna do it right when I finish off here, and then adios to you, Atlantean Nunu. Stay well and Godspeed. Monsieur Tiedrick, carpe diem, ad astra. Keep shooting for the stars. Owen, fare thee well, Owen, fare thee well. To thee, my one true love. When I return, united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that grieves me, but my darling, when I think of thee. And with that, adios, guys. Merry Moon and all in the Ideas Room today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As above, so below. Good magic.